Yay!
Sorry, there was no soft fade at all. It was literally just a cut right into the show. Welcome everyone to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 251. We're getting up there.
We're already up there.
Yeah, we're
happening.
well past up there.
Yeah.
Really fun show tonight. I'm excited because what I realized is our guest tonight, Hayden Hawks, has yet to be on Ginger Runner Live. I couldn't believe it.
I don't know how that's possible.
In our 5 years of doing the show, I was like, oh, let's get Hayden back on. And Kim's like, yeah, let's get him back on. And I kind of looked through the archive and was like, it's not back on. Let's get him on. So very excited to be joined tonight on Ginger Runner Live by Hayden Hawks, fresh off of his Chuckanut 50k victory. Absolutely crushed it out there. Both Kim and I were managed to get out to the race and enjoy it. It was a stunning day. Incredible field, stacked both men and women's side, and it was really, really cool to see Hayden do such an incredible job at this race. But we're going to talk to him on tonight's show about Chuckanut, about his Transgrancanaria experience, his training, his last year. He's been traveling the globe. So lots to come, lots to talk about on tonight's episode. Sit back, relax, enjoy. Ginger Runner Live, episode number 251, begins now.
Ginger Runner.
Yay! What is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 251. We appreciate you taking some time out of your busy Mondays to spend a little bit of it with us. We've both been a little under the weather as of late, so I apologize in advance for our voices, I guess, and sniffling. Yeah, apologize to not only our live viewers, our listeners, but also our guest, Hayden. I was like, man, I am so sorry. There might be a lot of sniffling going on during the show. Like, yeah, it's fine. It's totally cool. He's like, I've got a kid. I understand it. I'm like, oh, yes, that's true. So I'm very excited about tonight's episode because we do get to talk to Hayden Hawks, an incredible ultra runner, talented runner who has a collegiate background in cross country and just so fast. He's such a speed demon. And he is now just a couple of days removed from crushing the Chuckanut 50k, which is a notoriously fast, stout 50k here in Washington State in Bellingham, put on by Chrissy Mail and an incredible team of volunteers and staff. World-class event, highly coveted trophy that always brings out the fasties.
Yes.
And this year was no exception. Both Kim and I were up there supporting, cheering people on. We had a lot of viewers and Patreon supporters that were out there racing, which is just awesome. But we managed to snag the winner of the race outright. Hayden Hawks is going to be joining us. We snagged him. He hasn't been able to go home yet. We were the winning bid. Now taking bids for the winner of the Chuckanut 50k, Hayden Hawks. We'll take him.
Yeah.
We'll take him for Monday's show. So excited. We'll introduce him here in just a second. Of course, before we introduce our guest, we have just a couple of things we'd like to say at the top of the show, starting with...
Hi.
Nailing it.
You caught me off guard. You're trying to hone in on the chat room here.
We're live. Just so you know.
I was trying to do my job.
Oh. Nailed it.
Hi.
Hello.
Just a reminder, you guys, we are live, as you can tell. And we'll be pulling questions throughout the hour. So if you have questions for our wonderful guest, Hayden, please pop them into the chat room.
Yes. We also like to thank members of our viewing audience and listening audience, our Patreon supporters. They are the reason that we were able to do these shows week after week, month after month. All Patreon supporters from $1 on up per month support us and allow us to do live shows, reviews, films, travel, put on races, make music, all that sort of thing. It is because of that. So big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. You too can jump in just by going to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. 3 individuals in particular at that top tier are amazing. Brian Sands has been a longtime supporter. He is on his incredible journey of losing over 100 pounds, running his first marathon, running his first 50K, currently training for his first 50 miler. Just a wonderful story and a wonderful human being. Chris Lee in Hong Kong has a great organization there called Trailblazer that showcases all the wonderful trails in Hong Kong, just right outside of the city limits, like minutes from the city. So he and his organization just do really, really good things for the community there. And Rick Bjarnason and CheekyMonkeyMedia.ca. That company redid the gingerrunner.com website completely. Rick himself is an ultra runner and a big supporter of this show, and he was at Chuckanut this weekend. So big shout out to Rick. He crushed it out there, training for Sinister 7 and Fat Dog 120 this year. Rick used Chuckanut as a cute training run. For him, he made it look so easy and effortless, but a big shout out to him and absolutely crushing it out there as well. So without further ado, our guest has been waiting so patiently, coming to us from Utah, where I imagine it is just glorious, sunny, beautiful. Without further ado, Hayden Hawks.
Yay!
How you doing, man? We'll pretend. Well, you know what? We can include that. I don't care. I think it's funny. We'll figure it out.
I liked it.
I liked it too. I totally liked it too. So
maybe let's do a recap of you mentioning that we haven't had Hayden on the show.
Yes, that's exactly where I'll start. So we are so excited to have Hayden Hawks on the show because we have not had him on. Without further ado, Hayden Hawks.
Yay!
I want to blame cold meds. I haven't had any cold meds.
Maybe that's the problem.
I have nothing to blame.
Maybe you should be medicating yourself.
Oh my goodness. All right. So
Hayden's like first and last time on the show.
But it's part of the beauty of live, and our live audience is so forgiving. They do not blame Hayden, blame Ethan, and don't blame Kim. It's my fault, everybody.
It's good to get some laughing in. We all need laughing.
It's true.
So as we mentioned, Ashley, your wife, also, it was her first 50K at Chuckanut. Huge congratulations to her placing 6th, which is amazing. So shout out to your wife, Ashley, of course.
Yeah, she did an amazing job. Really proud of her.
So let's just kind of start at the beginning then, Hayden. Kind of going back a little bit, collegiate runner, what really drew you to trails? What sort of got you started even down this path? Maybe not necessarily ultra, but just falling in love with the outdoors and getting onto the trails.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I grew up in St. George, Utah. And if people haven't been there, you need to visit St. George. It's a outdoor recreation, just paradise. I mean, we have mountain biking, rock climbing. We're right at the gateway of the entrance to Zion National Park. Bryce Canyon National Park is within an hour. Grand Canyon's within an hour. It's a trail loving paradise. I mean, really, it's awesome. There's trails everywhere, and if you have any love for the outdoors, it's an amazing place to grow up. And so growing up, I was always kind of involved with the outdoors. My dad, my mom, they both love the outdoors. My dad, he's more of like a hunter fisher kind of guy, and he loves hunting, he loves fishing. But that being said, he would always take me out, into the outdoors. We'd always be camping, like seemed like every other weekend, either fishing or doing something.
Right.
And I just fell in love with the mountains. I fell in love with being outside. It was a thing that I just loved to do. I never really loved watching TV or playing video games or anything like that. I just wanted to be outside with my dad and my brother and spend time with them. And so, and I ran cross country. I ran track and field for my high school starting my sophomore year. And my coach would always tell us to go run on these routes, for practice. And they were always on the roads. And I was like, Coach, why can't we run on the trails? The trails are so close to the high school. Let's go run on the trails. And so he actually made it a thing where we'd go on the trails once a week. He started doing it once a week where he'd let us pick a trail that we could go run on. And we'd always pick these really cool trails to go run on. And it kind of became this thing where I fell in love with the trails, and I'd try to sneak away from running the road runs that he would always give us and try to sneak onto the trails. And, luckily I was the number one guy on the team. So I was kind of ahead of everybody. And
right.
So it was a little easier for me to sneak away. And coach would always be like, where did you go? I didn't see you on the route. I did 10 miles. Where'd you do 10 miles? Oh, I went up on the trail. And I fell in love with trail running, but I never really had the opportunity to do it as much because I was focused on track and field. I was focused on cross country, which is a good thing because it helped me develop a lot of speed. But I kind of always had this desire to run a trail race someday. I didn't know when. I thought maybe when I'm 40, 50 years old, I'd run one or something. But it happened a lot sooner, and I'm so grateful it did.
I feel like that is. I want to say that I have a similar story in that same sort of cross country regard, where you're out there, you're you're doing all these road workouts, you're doing a lot of intense workouts on concrete essentially, or like really hard packed gravel or something. But then I grew up in the Northwest, and you're just surrounded by these incredibly lush forest trails. And my brain is going, why aren't we climbing that mountain, or why aren't we, going out there? So I'm with you, man. Like, being drawn to the outdoors in that respect at an early age is like a huge part of what drew us to this sport.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, go ahead.
I'll just say, like, I grew up at the base of this famous, I guess, mountain in the area called the Red Mountain. It's this huge, just chunk of rock, this big red rock mountain. And if you go into St. George, you'll see it. It stands out above any other mountain in the area. And I remember I grew up right at the base of the mountain, and through all growing up, I was like, someday I'm going to get to the top of that. Someday I'm going to get to the top of that. It was always my dream to be able to hike to the top of this mountain. And when I got into high school and I started running, because I was a baseball player before, and I ended up getting cut from the baseball team and then ended up joining cross country because of that. And when I started running, I was just like, okay, now it's my time. And so I kind of made it a thing through high school to go run. I'd run up to the top of this mountain and run down as fast as I could, like once a week. And it kind of was just like a time when I could go out there and really find peace, and just, I knew that was the type of running that I love to do. Mm-hmm. And it was just a cool experience that I had when I was a kid, was running to the top of that mountain once a week. So
do you run with nostalgia? Like, do you have that sense of nostalgia on certain trails or certain mountains? Like, have you gone back to Red Mountain, and do you do that for the nostalgia factor at all?
Oh yeah, for sure. I've done like workouts on the Red Mountain, because I live 45 minutes north of St. George now, in Cedar City, Utah.
Okay.
I moved up here for college, and then I kind of stayed here because of the elevation. We're at 6,000 feet elevation, close to the mountains. It's an amazing place to live.
Yeah.
But I head down, especially during the winter when it's really cold and snowy. And the trails I don't have a lot of access to the trails in Cedar. I go down to St. George, where it's always dry and nice, and I'll go do repeats on the Red Mountain, actually. And one time I did 10 repeats up and down this mountain. It's a mile and a half to the top with about 2,000 feet of elevation gain. And so it's really steep, really rocky. And I did 10 of those one time. And I remember I went into the night, actually, during this workout. And all of a sudden, I seen a bunch of lights down at the bottom of the Red Mountain. I'm like, what the heck? And they were cop lights. Yeah. They were actually like red and white, or red and blue lights, right? And I'm like, what the heck? And so I called, and I had my brother come over. My brother's like, the cops are wondering, like, what's going on? Like, are you stuck? Are you stuck up on top of the mountain? Like, are you lost? What's going on? I'm like, no, I'm just doing repeats up here, like, just finishing up my workout. And so he ended up going and talking to the cops and was like, hey, like, it's just my brother. And they're like, oh yeah, we know Hayden, because I've lived there my whole life pretty much. And they're just like, oh yeah, that's that crazy runner guy, like, oh, let's go. And so they left. But I still
hilarious.
Go down and do stuff on there all the time. So
they literally thought, oh my gosh, there's someone on this mountain probably like trying to get a hold of 911, and they can't. We gotta go up and save him. And you're just, no man, I'm just doing repeats.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. So what was your first like big breakout race that really showed you that not only is this something you want to do, but something that you could be potentially good at?
Yeah, I think I kind of started, I graduated from college in 2016. I was running track and field and cross country, and I was trying to like qualify for the Olympic trials on the track, and I got close, but I didn't quite make it. And I kind of started burning out a little bit just of the track. I just kind of lost my love for the track and for running on the roads. And I remember I was wondering what I was going to do after college, if I was going to run post-collegiately, what I was going to do. And I ended up making a trip out to Boulder, Colorado, because there was a road running group out there that was interested in me called Hudson Elite. And they were like, hey, we want you to be a marathoner, type guy, do some stuff on the track, but also run marathon. It's like, yeah, I'll come out to Boulder and I'll check it out. So me, my wife, and my brother, we drove out from Utah over to Boulder. I remember we slept in a tent up in Boulder Canyon because we were so broke. We had no money. We were just graduated from college, and we just found this secret spot up in Boulder Canyon and stayed there for a week. It snowed on us every night. We were freezing to death. but I was checking out this group, and I remember I went to a workout, and I met a guy that was doing a workout for Boulder Track Club, and it was actually Matt Daniels. I think you guys had him on a few weeks ago,
Yep.
and I started talking to Matt, and then he's like, "Hey, you want to come for a run with me?" So I went out for a run with him, and we ended up meeting up with another guy named Andy Wacker, actually, who I raced at Chuckanut.
I was going to say, he was just a Chuckanut, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I became really good friends with Andy and Matt. And I remember we were running around the cross country course at University of Colorado, and Andy was like, just talking about like how he kind of dabbles in the trails. He also does road running, he does a bunch of different venues of running. And he was just talking to me about how you need to do what you really love to do. Like if you want to go on the trails and you want to race on the trails because you love it, then do it. And don't care what people think. Don't care if people are trying to bring you this way or bring you that way. Do what you truly love to do and what your heart tells you that you need to do. And it really hit me during that run, and it hit Matt as well.
Yeah.
And because we were both like kind of wondering if we should do road or track or trail. We both loved the trails, but I'll be honest with you, I had my teammates at SUU, and they kind of would always make fun of the trails, and they'd always be like, "Oh, the slow people run trails, like you don't want to run trails because you'll just be considered a slow guy." Yeah. And I would always talk about these ultra marathons like Western States, and they kind of made fun of me, like, "Oh, like that's just for slow people."
That's where you go when you retire. Like, why would you want to do that now? Yeah, you're in your prime.
So I kind of had that thing where it was like, well, maybe I should do the roads because there's more money in the roads, there's more prestige in the roads, but my heart truly loved the trails. And after talking to Andy, he convinced me, and it was like. And after that trip, I was like, I need to do trails. Like, that's what I need to do because that's what I know I'm going to be able to run for the rest of my life if I do that because it's something I enjoy. And also I just know that that's the path I need to take. And so I ended up signing up for the mountain running championships, the US mountain running championships, like right after that trip. Matt Daniels ended up signing up for the race too. And me, him, and Andy went out to New Hampshire. We all qualified for the U.S. mountain running team, and then ended up going to Bulgaria in September, and we won the world championship for the USA team that year. And that was kind of the start of things.
That sounds like
your start to trail running.
My start. Here's my trophy. I win the world. No, but like, man, I love hearing this. I think we get a lot of viewers that well, one, we get a lot of guests on the show who have a very similar sort of background. Like they come from some sort of collegiate running or professional road or semi-professional road running, and they discover trails, and they discover that they're good at trails, and then maybe that's the career path that they should take rather than stick with the road running or that sort of thing. But there's always this inherent love of the trails and that. But what I love is that you. Man, Andy is right. Like, do what you love, because I can't imagine going down the path of working so hard to be a professional runner on the roads or a semi-professional like marathon or half marathon or that sort of thing, and not loving it fully. Being drawn to the trails or running the trails in your free time because you love it, but then having to train specifically for this race, a rock and roll half marathon or something, just to do it for sponsors or whatever. So I love that you listen to that voice, and you and Matt, being able to travel abroad and be able to represent your country and do that sort of thing must have been incredible. Must have been incredible for you.
It was, yeah. That was a huge moment. When we won that gold medal, it was just so cool. Like it was kind of like I don't know. It showed me that this is what I truly need to do. Like I did make the right choice. I knew that I made the right choice, but that kind of confirmed it to me that was it. And I still thank Andy and I thank Matt, to this day. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be the trail runner that I am today. If it wasn't for Andy's words, he truly helped me become who I am today as a runner. And I'm so grateful that I listened to my heart. I listened to what I truly wanted to do. And, even though like I'm not doing this for the money, because I could have had a really good career on the roads. I had fast enough times on the track that I could have really done some good stuff. And there's a lot more money. There's a lot more prestige in road running, but that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that I'm living the lifestyle and I'm living the way that I want to live. And that truly means the most to me, and I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful that I made that choice.
It's the same choice that we made. Listen, we're not winning races. We're not even remotely close to that sort of caliber, but there's something about kind of putting aside, like, I have certain expectations of income or all these things that the world tells us we need to be or do or have. And when we sort of decided that those things didn't matter and our happiness was of the utmost concern, and we started to do like this stuff, live shows, Ginger Runner Live and stuff full time, it was everything, and everything else just kind of goes by the wayside. Like this, I wouldn't have it any other way. We get to adventure on the weekends. We get to enjoy each other's company out in the trails and explore the world and share stories like yours. And it's the best thing ever. So of course we're at a different level than Hayden Hawks. I don't have a world. I don't have a gold medal. We'll get you a gold medal, but will it be for the U.S. or Canada?
You can have my gold medal if you want.
Hey, that's so kind of you.
Here's our address.
Okay.
I want to remind everyone watching that, of course, we are live with Hayden Hawks. And to prove that, Kim, what do we got?
We have tons of questions rolling in. Great question from Austin in the chat room. Austin says, how has becoming a father changed your mental approach to training and racing? Has being a father made it harder to get out on long runs, or does it inspire you to run harder?
Great question, Austin.
Yeah, great question. Being a father has definitely changed my life. I can't just get up and go and do stuff like I used to be able to do. We have to find a sitter, or we have to call a parent up to help watch our kid. But being a father is the coolest thing in the world. I wouldn't trade it for nothing. Some of those little like experiences I have with my kid, teaching him things, or him just being like, daddy mountains, which means take me to the mountains, because he likes to go hiking. We put him in his little pack and he'd go out in the mountains, and he loves it. He loves being in the mountains. And those little things just mean the world to me. And it has changed my training up a little bit. I just have to schedule things better. I can't sleep in till 12 o'clock. I have to wake up with him, and I have to take care of him and then schedule my run. But that being said, I have an incredible wife who supports me and loves me to death. And she's always there to make sure that I get my runs in. She knows that this is my profession, that this is my career, and this is my dream. And she's always been there to help me achieve my dreams. And so I definitely couldn't do it without her. But yeah, it's changed a little bit. But that being said, I still run a lot. I still get my training in, and it's probably actually been better because my training is just, I don't know, it's more structured. I don't know if it's more structured, but it's just more precise, I guess you'd say, because it has to be. Yeah, it's purposeful. Exactly. Yeah. And racing especially helps me. Being a dad, it's helped me so much, because I know that I'm not just doing it for myself. I'm doing it for my wife and my kid. If I don't do well in racing, I can't support him. You know what I mean? Because this is my job. And so, but it's also my passion, and it's my love. And I've learned that it can't just be my job. I have to remember what I'm doing this for, and it's because I truly love it.
We always talk about the why, and the things that drives you to finish a race when things are getting absolute worst and stuff like that. And I love that you say this, because it's like your why is clear. It's your family, it's your livelihood, it's your love of the trails. It's you have so many whys to draw from when you need to, in those moments.
Yeah.
You posted recently on your social media too regarding why do you run these long distances and these huge endeavors and push yourself, mind, body beyond the limits? And it is for your family. It's for your son. It's to show him that it can be done. And man, it like read like poetry. It was great. It's a wonderful thing. We don't have kids. We have a dog.
Hey, same thing.
Great. Okay.
Totally the same
thing. But that resonated. And I imagine it would resonate with a lot of parents, people who are trying to achieve these goals and stuff like that. It was beautifully written, man. And I think it's really a testament to your character and to you as a father. I think it's fantastic. More live questions. Sorry, Kim.
Yeah, a question from Nathaniel. Nathaniel asked, can you tell us about your move to Altra? Altra, the brand Altra. How do you like being one of their sponsored athletes, and what is your preferred shoe?
Preferred shoe, I love the new Superior 4. I actually wore that shoe at Chuckanut. I wore it for part of Transgrancanaria as well. It's my favorite shoe. I mean, it's so comfortable. You know, it has a great toe box, really cushion, and the traction worked amazing actually at Chuckanut, even in the snow and the ice and the mud.
Sweet.
And so it's my go-to shoe, you know, for the trails. Altra, it's always been my dream to be sponsored by Altra. I'm from Utah. You know, Altra is a Utah brand. You know, they were founded in Utah. I actually had one of the first prototypes that Altra ever came out with back in the day, and I tested it, and I fell in love with the brand and the shoe. When I came into ultra running, it didn't quite work out where I could get sponsored by them. It just they had enough athletes, and it just didn't work out that way. But I always kind of was like, man, when I renegotiate, I definitely want to involve Altra and get them, because it's a brand that I've always believed in. You know, I love their passion for trail running, especially. You know, they really love the mountains. You know, their shoes are all really thought out about how to move faster in the mountains, you know, how to, especially the mountains where we live, because that's where they test all the shoes, is here in Utah.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of like, man, if I can really, you know, work this out where I can be an Ultra sponsored athlete, I would absolutely love it. And it all came together, you know, when my contract was with Hoka. I loved Hoka. Don't get me wrong. They treated me extremely well. Great company to be sponsored by. But I just found something that I liked a little bit better in Altra. More, I guess the product was the biggest thing. I believe in the zero drop. I believe it helps my form. It helps me to stay balanced as an athlete. It builds areas of my body that maybe I'm a little weak in, having that zero drop. And I just love the shoes. You know, they've kept me healthy, and I'm really happy with my switch with Altra.
Sweet. Appreciate the candid answer on that too, because it's real easy to blow off sponsorship questions just because it's, you know, it's your livelihood. The last thing you want to do is burn a bridge or anything like that. When we totally understand that too. Okay, you mentioned it. I want to start with Transgrancanaria because I know that I think is part of this story with Chuckanut. Before we really get into this year's race, and Chuckanut, I know you've raced before too, and you have sort of a not revenge, but like you had a reason to really crush it this year. But let's start with Transgrancanaria. So what happened at that race? Because that was just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it wasn't a fun race. Let's just say that. It was oh man, it was hell. It really was.
Really?
Yeah. I
from the beginning?
No, not from the beginning. That's the thing is it all started hitting me around maybe 60, 70K into the race.
Okay.
I went out really conservative, actually. Me and Pau Capel went out. We were running fast, but I didn't feel like it was fast. It felt really super comfortable. You know, I remember going up some of those first climbs and was like, man, I feel so good today. Like, I think I'm going to win this race. Like, I honestly thought I was going to win the race at the beginning. I just felt so good. And I thought it was one of those days. And, you know, my training, we had actually went out there and lived in Gran Canaria the whole month of January. And I'd been training really well, hitting 130-mile weeks with 20,000 plus feet of elevation gain. My workouts were going perfect. You know, like I had the speed, I had the climbing ability, I had everything was just clicking. And I went into the race. I had my nutrition plan, and I don't know, I didn't think it out properly, the nutrition plan. And I didn't realize that, I don't know, that your nutrition has to be different on a night race compared to a day race. Because during the night, you're not necessarily, like, especially me, I come from the desert, so I don't sweat a lot as is, because I think my body's just adapted to the desert, you know, climate. And I wasn't sweating a lot, you know, during the night, but I was taking just as much salt in as I would during a day race.
Sure.
You know, not really thinking about it, I guess you'd say. And what I was doing is I was actually sabotaging myself, because I was taking so much salt in and not putting a lot out that I ended up my body went into a state of hypernatremia. A lot of people know
hypo.
Yeah, hyper.
Hyper.
A lot of people know what hypo is. Hypo is when you take too much water, right?
Right.
And your body completely shuts down. You can actually die from it. It's really dangerous. You start throwing up, you get dizzy, you slur your words, your body just completely gets weak and fatigued and it shuts down. What I did is I did the opposite. I did hypernatremia, which is too much salt and not enough water. And so I got really imbalanced. And the same side effects that come with hypo are the same that you get with hyper. I started throwing up everywhere, uncontrolled. I couldn't stop throwing up. I got dizzy. I was slurring my words. My body just completely shut down on me and I couldn't do nothing. I threw up so much at one spot that I think I got a lot of maybe that salt out of me that I started feeling good again. Okay. But then I started putting salt back in, and that second time it hit me, it just completely shut me down to the point where I couldn't do nothing. And the race ended up actually taking me out because I was in such a bad state where it was dangerous. And so they threw me in an ambulance, took me to the field hospital, started pumping water into me, and slowly I started coming out of it. But it was probably really dangerous. The same exact thing actually happened to me at the end of Lavaredo last year.
I was going to ask if this has happened. Yeah, I feel like I remember the stories from this. So this has happened before. It happened
at Lavaredo, but Lavaredo is a shorter race, so it happened to me towards the end of the race, and so I was able to push those last 5 kilometers and finish. But then I ended up collapsing at the finish line, and I was in the same state. But now I know what it is. You know, the doctors told me what it is, and I fixed it going into Chuckanut, and it clearly worked. And I think I should be good for the future now. It was really hard because all the training and the hard work that had been put into that race. But I know that if I wouldn't have went through that hard time at Transgrancanaria, I would have never found out what was going on with me, and I would have kept sabotaging myself.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm actually really happy that I had a bad race at Transgrancanaria.
We hear this a lot. You know, we hear you have a horrible experience, but it is, as much as it in real time is the worst. And just from your description, I'm like, I can't even imagine being so far from home and on an island that on a probably remote trail on this island. I know the island has lots of people and great spectators and stuff like that, but still you're dealing with this in real time. I know my mind would immediately go, I just want to go home. Like if you're at that point of just absolute desolation, you're just, all you want to do is go home or be with your wife or be with your family. So to recover from that and then pick up and then race a race a couple of weeks later, what was the mindset there? Was it, I hope Chuckanut is nailed, or did you have some training runs in between Transgrancanaria and Chuckanut that sort of gave you that confidence that your body was going to be okay and recover from Transgrancanaria in time? What was the in-between like, and what was your mind at with that process?
Yeah, I mean, luckily my training was so good leading into Transgrancanaria. My mileage was so high that I think that really helped me recover fast from the race. I mean, that being said, I was trashed after Transgrancanaria. I remember coming home from on the plane home. You know, it was like 20 something hours of travel. I got home and I was just like, I'm not going to race for like 3 months. Like I am trashed. I feel horrible. And I remember going out for, a small run a couple days later and was like, I just felt completely just trashed and really, really bad. And then I got on the phone with my coach, and my coach was like, hey, what do you think about signing up for a race in the next like 2 or 3 weeks? And I was like, are you kidding me? Like I can't do a race in 2 to 3 weeks. Like
that would be my instinct.
I can't even get out the door barely. Like I'm so gone right now. And he's just like, I think it would be good for you. And I mean, like I said, I posted a thing about my coach a couple of days ago and was like, he knows me better than I know myself sometimes. And I'm so happy that I have a coach to help me, because he's like, I think it would be really good for your mind. And he's like, I think your training was good enough before the race that you'll be okay. We need to utilize your fitness, and we need to get you a really confidence building race after this really bad race.
For sure.
And he's like, so start thinking what you can do. And I'm like, I'll think, but I'm not going to think that hard, to be honest with you. I don't know if I want to.
I couldn't come up with anything.
Couldn't find any.
And, yeah, exactly. And so I actually, I was coming out to Chuckanut anyways because my wife was running the race. She had already signed up, and I was just going to crew her. And I said, I'm going out to Chuckanut. He's like, perfect, let's do it. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, okay, like, let me see if I can get in. So I called Chrissy and we got a sponsorship spot and I was able to get into the race.
Sweet.
And so I signed up like the week before the race for the Chuckanut. And so I really had no thought of what I was going to do for the race. I was like, I'm just going to go out there and do what I can do because I don't feel very strong. I did do one workout, like some K repeats on the track, like maybe 2 weeks before. Sure. And they actually went really well. I was hitting like 3 flat for Ks on the track, and I did 6 of them, and I felt so easy at like 6,000 feet elevation. Was like, maybe I am a little like speedier and faster than maybe I'm more recovered than I thought. And so that gave me a little confidence, but even going into the race, I didn't have a ton of confidence. I knew Andy Wacker was coming out and Rob Watson and all these really fast guys that have a lot of leg speed. And was like, I don't even know if I can keep up with them for the first 6 miles of this thing because it's really fast, the first 6 miles. But my coach believed in me. He helped me believe in myself. And I said, let's do it. Let's give it a go and see what happens. So
I'm super impressed. Like, not only were you able to crush a course that was icy, to say the least, snowy and icy this year. So not only did you just crush that sort of course, you came really close to your previous fastest time on this course from a couple of years ago, but also a couple of weeks after Transgrancanaria, where it sounds like you had an absolutely miserable body shutdown, full system overload, weeks to reset and recoup sort of scenario. I'm blown away. Like, I think that's just such a unique ability. And I don't know, man. I'm totally impressed. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, my college coach would always tell me this, and this always kind of helped me, I guess, over the years, is he'd always say, you need to have a Teflon attitude. And I don't know if you guys know what Teflon is. It's like that.
Oh, yeah. We've got tons of bulletproof vests here. Yeah, exactly. A closet full of them.
Everything just kind of falls off it, right? Like if you put water on it, it kind of just falls off. And he said, that's what you need to do. If you have a bad race, I've had plenty of bad races. I mean, I've raced a lot over the years and I've had bad races. And he just said, have that Teflon attitude. Quickly forget what happened to you and just move on. You live in the moment, live in the now. Don't think about the past and the bad things that happened to you in the past. He said, yeah, let the good things give you confidence, but don't let the bad things bring you down. And so I started thinking that a lot, the last couple of weeks, and was like, I just need to have that attitude and forget what happened at Transgrancanaria and move on. I'm a better runner than that. I knew it was a fluke. I knew it was just a nutrition issue, and just move on and be the runner who you know that you can be.
Awesome. Kim, let's get to some of these live questions that are popping up. We've got lots of them today.
Sure. A question from Mark in the chat room. Mark says, Hayden and one of the other top men flew past me at Chuckanut. They were chatting friendly. At some point, the race started between them. How did that happen? And were there any parting words when you took off to get the win?
Yeah, it was probably me and Andy. I mean, me and Andy are really good friends. I talk to him all the time, and it was kind of cool to race with him, because last time we raced was years ago during like shorter stuff. I never raced him in anything long. And so we were chatting a lot during the first, 15 miles of that race. Kind of, sorry, Rob, but we were kind of having some like American pride where we were like, hey, let's work together and break the Canadian. Like we can't let a Canadian win an American race, right?
Hey now.
Sorry. Hey, I have plenty of Canadian teammates from college, plenty of Canadian friends. But
you're on thin ice, eh?
Yeah. But we were like just having fun, talking and chatting it up, and I was very like, wow, like I can't believe I can hit this pace and talk still. Like I was surprised with my fitness, to be honest with you. But there was one actually point in the thing where we saw you, Ethan, and you were taking pictures, I think at like mile 4 or 5 or something. And I remember I was running and I was like, hey, that was Ethan. I think I was like talking to myself actually, but the words were coming out. And Andy was like, what did you just say? And I was like, that was the Ginger Runner. And Andy's like, oh, cool, awesome. And but yeah, we were just having fun. And then we were working together for a while. We on $2 actually we gapped Rob. You know, once we hit the single track, we kind of gapped Rob. I'm sure he's going to get better at the single track stuff, but he comes from a marathon, man. I mean, it's
right,
really
and this
hard.
is his first 50K too. You know,
yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
And me and Andy were pushing through that section, and then we kind of started talking too much, I think, because we got a little we started slowing down a little bit, and then Rob caught right back up to us, and we're like, oh no. And so we hit Cleater, and we started getting back down to business, and we started pushing up Cleater. And we got to the top of Cleater and had a little gap on Rob, maybe by like a minute or so, 30 seconds, I'm not sure. And then we were running on the technical section through the ridge, actually up on top.
Was there still snow at this point? I heard there was snow and some dicey sections all up Cleater and along the ridge.
Yeah, so Cleater was completely covered in snow. I mean, there were a couple dirt sections, but they were really small.
Okay.
We were slipping and sliding everywhere going up Cleater.
Yeah.
And a lot slower than it was 2 years ago, that's for sure. And then we hit the ridge, and it was icy. There was like patches of ice, and a lot of the rocks that were up there were just covered in ice. And so you had to be really careful not to fall on the rocks. But we were running through that technical section, and Andy's a really good technical runner, you know, and I've gotten a lot better over the years. So we were flying through there, and all of a sudden, like, Andy kind of started slowing down just a little bit, maybe like with like a half a mile to go on the ridge. And I was like, you know, what's going on? Like, because to be honest with you, I thought I was going to lose the race. I thought Andy was going to beat me because he was so comfortable those first 15 miles. Like, he wasn't even breathing. And I was just like, dude, this guy is like fit. Like, he's going to beat me today. Because especially I know Andy's leg speed. I mean, he's a 103 half marathon guy. And I'm like, dude, if we get to that flat at the end, he's going to crush me. But anyways, we got there and Andy started slowing down a little bit. And I was like, I wonder what's going on. And then he's like, hey, I got to take a pee real quick. And I was like, okay. So I just kept going, right? Because I'm not going to stop and take a pee with him. You know, we're not like, hold hands and take a pee or anything.
You want me to wait? You want me to stand next to you? Like, what do you need?
Exactly. And so we started going. I just kept going. And I was just thinking like, oh yeah, he'll catch back up to me. Like he'll just take a pee and get back up. Well, I got into the next aid station and he wasn't there still. And then I started up North Lost Lake and no one ever came. And I was just like, what happened? And from then on, I ran by myself. You know, I just kept pushing and felt amazing. Like, I never had a low time the entire race.
Wow.
And I just kept a consistent pace and I kept looking back thinking somebody was going to come, but just nobody came. And it was just a good day, a really good day.
Did you ever find out what happened to Andy? Was it just a really long pee?
Maybe he's still up there taking a pee.
We gotta go get him.
Yeah.
Well, give him some space.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So after, like, I went up Chin Scraper, came back down Cleater, and then I started going down Fragrance Lake Trail, sliding everywhere, like literally skiing down the thing. And there was a guy down there that I knew, and I was like, hey, like, how far is second place? And he's like, oh, maybe like 3 or 4 minutes. You know, he's a little ways back. And I'm like, is it Andy? Because to be honest with you, I was nervous that if I got to the road section, Andy or Rob, because both are really fast road runners, could maybe catch me on the road. And he said, no, it's not Andy. And I said, is it Rob? And he's like, no, it's not Rob. He's like, it's Tyler Siegel. And I was like, well, what happened to Andy? And he's like, well, he dropped out at an aid station back there. And apparently Andy was dealing with some Achilles problems. His Achilles started hurting him. And he had a really bad dip in energy, and he just made a good decision to drop. He's got a lot of races to come up, and he just didn't want to jeopardize those. But yeah, that once I got to that, I mean, I still knew Tyler was a strong runner, and he could possibly catch up to me, but I was a little bit more confident that I could take this home for the win because I knew that the 2:13 marathoner and the 1:03 half guy were out of it. And so maybe I had a shot on the flat. So
yeah. And like the last 6 and the first 6 are this pancake flat for a majority of it. There's only a couple dips, but it benefits the road speed for sure. The quick turnover, the people who, like 2 years ago, 2017, Max King and you battled it out for first and second. And I was at the finish line. I remember hearing the two conversations. Max King, like, I had to drop, was it like a 540? He's like, I had to drop to a 540 mile for the last 6 miles just to outstep Hayden. And Hayden came in 30 seconds, 35 seconds?
30 seconds, yeah.
30 seconds after Max. And Hayden's like, man, that was so fast at the end there. And we looked down at Hayden's shoes, and he's wearing like road flats on one of the muddiest courses of ever. And I was like, Hayden, did you not wear trail shoes? And I think you were like, no, man, I only have road flats or something. I was like, what? And the fact that you were that fast in those conditions in those shoes was like mind blowing. It was amazing.
Yeah, that was a fun year.
3:38.
Not a good choice with the road flats. This time I wore trail shoes.
You had some lugs on the bottom.
Yeah.
3:38. 7. Wait, what? 3:37:34. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think that's right.
My brain is someone else. By the way, I'm going to call this comment out because it's hilarious. But in the chat room, someone's like,
saw it too.
Lowell at Ethan. Well, when I said, Hayden asked, you know what Teflon is? I said, yeah, we have plenty of bulletproof vests. And D Benton in the chat room points out that that's Kevlar. That's not Teflon.
Teflon's like frying pan.
I realized this. I was
gonna let it slide.
You should never let it slide.
It's okay. I'm wearing a vest right now. It'd be kind of cool if it was bulletproof.
Is it made of Teflon or Kevlar? Teflon eggs won't stick to it. It's probably Teflon. Well, 3:37:34 is an incredible time, Hayden. In those conditions, especially, you had the snow, the ice, the dicey descent, and ridgeline there. A huge congratulations to you on absolutely crushing the Chuckanut 50. Redemption? Do you feel like you got a bit of redemption on that course?
Yeah, this one means a lot to me. It really does for two reasons. First, what happened 2 years ago, I was young, I made some dumb decisions with the course. I always wanted redemption with the course, to come back and do it. I really fell in love with this course. I fell in love with the atmosphere of the race. I fell in love with the people of the race. And so I always wanted to come back. And so to get that win, after 2 years was awesome. Yeah. But the biggest redemption was from 3 weeks ago, that race in Transgrancanaria. It was tough, it was really hard mentally and physically on me. And to be able to show myself that I can come back and do something like this meant a lot to me. It showed me that I'm a lot more resilient than I thought I was. It helped me believe in myself even more, and helped me realize that, that I can do hard things. I can do hard things. And so yeah, redemption definitely for two reasons. I'm really happy with the win and really happy that I had such a good time out there. And I'd like to give it up to Chrissy too. She puts on an amazing race, and I hope to come back in the future. I was telling you before, me and my wife, we have fallen in love with the Pacific Northwest, and we raced a lot in Seattle, actually, at the University of Washington, indoor in track and field. We actually spent our first 2 anniversaries in Seattle at a track meet. Yeah, and we just love it up there. If there's anywhere else we can move in the entire world, it would be up there, to be honest with you. And so we plan on spending a lot of time, hopefully in the future, up there. I want to do White River, hopefully next year, maybe.
Total classic.
Yeah, and then spend maybe a month or 2 up there and just train, go check out the enchantments and a bunch of other places up there. And then I also I'm doing Squamish 50-50 this year.
So cool.
So I love it up there, and we hope to come back every year, hopefully. So
well, man, you're always welcome to the Northwest, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions or anything like that. We also have this tiny little race called Tiger Claw coming up on May 4th. It's supposed to be really hard. You are always invited to come and show everyone how it's done. I want to get to a live question before we move into the Quickie question quiz, which we're going to do here with Hayden. But Kim, you have something.
Yeah, before we take another live question, I do want to give a special shout out to Kat Drew, who is the first female from my old stomping grounds, Vancouver, BC.
Yep.
She came in 26.
Kat Drew just crushed it. She has a great training story as well, where I think she runs anywhere from like 4 days a week to 5 days a week. She's like a full-time job. Like she balances her run life with her work life and still manages to just crush it. So big shout out to Kat Drew too on absolutely nailing Chuckanut 50k. And that kind of split the podium for men and women, USA and Canada. So
those are I'm waving my Canadian flags in my hand.
You get 2 of them.
I carry them in my back pocket at all times.
with your Kevlar.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead, get to one live question, and then we'll do the Quickie question quiz with Hayden.
Burning question from Caitlin Gerben in the chat room.
Hey!
Caitlin says, huge congrats. Question for Hayden. How did you translate your Verdi technical training for Transgrancanaria to a runnable course at Chuckanut in just a few weeks?
Yeah, good question. I don't believe that you have to do strictly vert or strictly flat. I'm a big advocate of doing both, that you need to keep speed in your training regimen. Even if you're training for a big mountain ultra, you still need some speed, because speed brings running. It helps build your running economy, so you're more efficient when you run. And it also, like, if I can go out there and drop a sub 5-minute mile, like, not a lot of people in the ultra that can do that, and so it really helps me to have an advantage, when it comes to the race. And so I was actually, when I was training for Transgrancanaria, I was doing a lot of faster road type tempos too. I was doing 15-mile tempos at like 5:20, 5:30 pace, some 20-mile tempos under 6-minute pace, and I always implement some speed into my training. I do 1 to 2 workouts a week of speed training mixed in with the vert. I think it's good, to mix it up. You don't have to be strictly just a trail runner all the time.
Right.
You can run on the roads and it's okay. You don't have to race on the roads. I don't really like racing on the roads. I'd rather race on trails, but I still train on the roads. I train with actually a Canadian Olympian, from British Columbia, Cam Levins. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a 2:09 marathoner, just broke the Canadian record in the marathon. And he actually went to the university I went to, and he's out here doing a training camp at altitude in Cedar. So I train a lot with him, and he's a fast guy, but he helps me keep that leg speed going that I can use to my advantage in ultras. And so I'm ready to do a flat or a mountain almost all the time because of the way I train. That being said, I will maybe do a little bit more mountain if I'm training for a mountain, or a little bit more flat if I'm training for a flat. But it's always there where I can easily switch and transition into whatever I'm going after. And so
that's a stout ability to be able to do too. And Caitlin is another example. I love that she asked this question too, because she can crush the mountains like nobody's business, but then also she's got the leg speed. She's super fast. Totally. All right, Hayden, here's what happened. We have first-time guests, much like yourself, which I still can't believe, answer a rapid series of questions called the Quickie question quiz. They're very easy. You basically answer with the first thing that comes to mind, and we just rip through them as fast as we can. You let me know when you're ready by giving me a thumbs up, and we'll start the Quickie question quiz.
Okay, thumbs up.
What was your very first race?
Very first race, cross country, trail, anything?
Let's say cross country.
Cross country. I ran a 5-kilometer cross country race in St. George, Utah.
Favorite place to run? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Favorite place to run currently?
Zion National Park.
Road or trails?
Trails.
Bucket list race?
Ooh. Western states for sure.
Favorite running movie?
Without Limits.
Choice. Guilty pleasure TV show?
Ooh, Designated Survivor. We've been watching that a lot lately. It's pretty good.
I think we
got into
we got into that. Favorite pre-race meal?
Favorite pre-race meal? Ooh, a jar of Nutella and oatmeal. I eat Nutella before races. I love it.
Costco, by the way. Nutella at Costco.
Yeah.
Giant.
Yeah, the big one. Exactly. I downed almost the whole one before Chuckanut.
That's what I'm doing wrong.
Secret. That's the secret. Favorite post-race indulgence?
Ooh, gelato in France or Italy or somewhere in Europe. That's why I race in Europe, because it's the gelato.
That's a legitimate excuse for sure. And finally, what are your current running kicks?
Like shoes, right? Mm-hmm. Superior 4. Yeah, the Superior 4 is what I mostly train in.
Congratulations, Hayden Hawks. You passed the Quickie question quiz.
Thank you.
A+ results. You're moving to the head of the class. Hayden, man, it was just a pleasure to have you on the show. I loved the stories, and we got to get you back on. I know that you have a big year planned. You got lots of really cool events coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about those things in the after show with Hayden. We're going to have him stick around just a little bit longer for our Patreon audience. So we'll be doing that live stream just as we finish this, and we'll ask Hayden all about what's coming up. But Hayden, before we even get to the after show, can you please let people know where they can find you on social media, where they can follow you, follow up, ask questions, and follow along with your journeys and adventures that are upcoming?
Yeah, just Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Just type in Hayden Hawks. The guy with the funny looking mustache, that's me. And all the running photos from around the world, I'm sure I'm pretty easy to find on there. So it's Hayden Hawks.
Awesome. Big shout out to our guest tonight, Hayden Hawks, for crushing the Chuckanut 50k this last weekend. We are going to again move into the after show with Hayden here in just a couple of seconds, ask some of those residual questions that didn't get asked during the main show. If you would like to join us in the after show, it's very easy to do. All you got to do is go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner for as little as $1 a month, which is a fraction of a cup of coffee. You get to support this live show, our reviews, our films, our adventure races and stuff like that, including Tiger Claw. So consider it if you have not already, and we'll see everyone who is a Patreon supporter in the after show in just a couple of seconds. But last segment that we do on every Ginger Runner Live now is the GR Crew Member of the Week. It is by far one of our favorite segments where we get to honor and salute one of the members of our viewing audience who did something amazing over the last week. This week, we actually want to give first a shout out to all of our viewers who ran Chuckanut, who were out there with Hayden and everyone just crushing those trails in those pretty dicey conditions in the snow and ice. Everyone took care of themselves and just crushed it, which is great.
Yes.
I also realize there's a drinking game going on in the chat room. Every time I say crushed it, people are drinking, so that's cool.
It's true.
Enjoy it. Crushed it. But tonight, our crew member of the week is Brendan Quarrell. He is an Australian runner. He has a fantastic story and journey. He ran his first 65K race this last weekend, which was a benefit for CF. And he didn't know what to expect out of this distance. And we got a chance to hear a little bit from him. He absolutely crushed it. He did a fantastic job out there running loops for a great cause. And he told us a little bit about how bonking at 57 kilometers, he thought he was done. He thought it was over, but he managed to walk in the last 8K and complete the 65K event. So it was the longest that he's ever run. And it was, he said, one of the hardest things he's ever done. So big shout out to Brendan on absolutely nailing it. Kim said it, so it also counts. That wraps up our Ginger Runner Live episode number 251. Am I forgetting anything before we move into the after show?
I don't think so.
I don't either. If you haven't already, go grab the new Ginger Runner album. It's on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, all that good stuff. It's Deceptions of Light and Shadow. It is available for everyone to download or listen to at your convenience. It's all the music that we made for some of the films over the last couple of years. Really proud of it. Hope you enjoy it. And we'll be joined in the after show by Hayden Hawks in a couple of moments. Thank you, everyone, for wonderful support and for tuning in for Ginger Runner Live 251. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Ginger Runner.